Welcome back, our national and international viewers of Let's Talk America Radio. Welcome to our edition of Real Talk, of course, where we tackle the real subjects with the best experts and advocates out there. I'm Shana Thornton, on air host and producer of our award winning program. And we have a friend of our show back on with us today. And it's the one and only James LaValle. Of course, he is a best selling author. He's also a clinical pharmacist and a nutritionist. And he is dedicated to allowing real people, that's me, you, and whoever's next to you, to be able to live your best life ever. And he's so practical, and that's why we love having him on, because he offers real talk for real patients, okay? Not pie in the sky. He acknowledges there are challenges, but he gives real solutions. James, welcome back to our program.
So good to be back and talking to you.
Yeah, we've got a timely topic today. We're going to talk about staying on that financial budget, the B word, while you're trying to eat healthy. And we're also going to tackle some quick trending health news as well, getting your opinion as a clinical pharmacist and also as a nutritionist. But first, you
Sure.
know, we have a quick tradition here on Let's Talk America Radio. We speak with so many advocates, so many experts, so many individuals that have the resume and the experience, and you're certainly one of them. But the human component of it, James, in 1 minute or less, why do you do what you do? Why are you so dedicated to helping real people really lose the weight, really stay on target?
Well, that's simple. I think it was a calling from God. I mean, when I was very young, in my career,
Yeah.
I just had this conversion of wanting to be a service and to help people really achieve their best health possible.
Beautiful.
Because when you're feeling the best you can feel, guess what happens? You're a better spouse, you're a better parent, you're a better coworker, boss, you're going to do more things at church. You're going to do all the things that you'd like to do because you have the energy to do it.
Yeah.
So get on the horse. And like I always tell people, it's work, but it's worth it because there's nothing better than feeling good.
Yeah, so true. I love it. Feeling good and making sure everything's intact and those numbers. Not that we're chasing numbers, if you will, but making sure it's a balanced life to not just allow longevity, but quality of life, right?
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Look, in the end, if you said to somebody, I'm going to take your cholesterol from 240 to 200, or you said, I'm going to help you get out of joint pain and feeling tired midday and feeling foggy brain, what are we going to pick?
Yeah.
Right? So we want to get the numbers down, but we can't lose sight of, we don't want to hear that what people say, oh, you're 40 now, you should feel that way. I, I don't believe that. No, I don't believe
Yeah.
that a bit. I've seen it in 40 years in practice. I'm 64 years old. I mean, and I don't ache. I don't have pain. I got up at 5:30 this morning and worked out for an hour, and I'm in meetings today, and I'm doing podcasts, and
Yeah.
we have that right,
Yeah.
but it does take work. You
That's
can't
right.
just think you're going to get a magic shot and take all the weight off. I know we're going to talk about that later,
We're going to
but
talk about that because that's important. I want to start off with an important topic for so many people. I don't need to tell you that inflation and economics always impacts many Americans, right? We
oh,
know that
of course,
most of us don't have infinite amount of money, right? But
me,
to the point you
yeah,
just made, yeah.
me
But to
too.
the point,
I mean,
exactly. To the point, well, most of us don't. To the point you just made, James, that though we do deserve a balanced life where we can cut down on some of the diseases and diagnoses and perhaps even some of the medications, if appropriate, when appropriate. You know that as a pharmacist, it's not always the case for everybody, but it can possibly be true for some people. But help us out because with prices going up, you want to eat healthy, but I don't need to tell you in the local grocery stores, the fresh options seem to be through the roof. And our processed foods, the ones I know as a nutritionist you frown at, tend to be a little more economical and as a working mom, also quicker. Help me out.
okay, here we go. So the first thing is I think buying fresh food's risky a lot of times. I love it. I mean, I do it. Um, but you can't let it spoil in your fridge. That's wasted money. I'm gonna eat broccoli this week. You buy the head of broccoli, and guess what? You're eating French fries. That
Yes.
broccoli goes and it rots in your fridge, right? And so fresh food is expensive. And I eat a lot of fresh food. Believe me, my father was a chef. My
Yeah.
wife's a dietitian. I'm a foodie. I mean, so I love eating fresh produce, but what I found is that I needed to plan my meals because you know what? Most people eat too much, they eat too often, they eat too late,
Yeah.
right? And then they're stressed out, they don't get enough sleep. But the problem
Right.
with the food is first of all, it's portion size. So first thing to do is plan your meals out for the week. We do
Okay.
that now. Now that my pops has gone out of the house, my son, who was a linebacker, eating me out of house and home, has gone out of the house. We went from two people that could literally eat a refrigerator full of food in 4 days to the two of us. And I found that so I kept buying food like it was a refrigerator full that was needed. I cut my bill in half
Wow.
when I planned my meals and got what I needed for each meal. Now, I even ordered it and have it delivered at times fresh. Like,
Awesome.
here's your food. The other one is frozen vegetables and frozen fruit. Frozen vegetables are picked at their ripe time, peak ripeness, flash frozen, so all the nutrients are in them. The only thing you got to watch with frozen vegetables is that you don't overcook them. You know, the old dreaded broccoli mush. you know, when you cook too much of that. But fresh, getting frozen is great because you can seal up what you don't want. And it's usually much cheaper than buying fresh. And so if you're on a budget and you can't afford fresh, that means you shouldn't be eating vegetables. Because if you look at the blue zones, where the most people in the world live to 100 years of age, centenarians, they all have one big thing in common. They ate a lot of vegetables. They got
Wow.
another thing in common. We got another thing in common. They all move a lot. They
Okay.
walk. They
Okay.
exercise. They got a third thing in common. They all act as a community. There's no sense of social isolation. There's a sense that the older folks should be participating and can contribute to
Okay.
life. So there's a social context, there's a physical context, and
Okay.
then they eat more vegetables, more fruits. And I always tell people 3 vegetables for every fruit. They eat some whole grains. Now, you know why they can eat more whole grains than we can? Because
Why?
we don't walk up and down hills
Oh, I see.
like they do, like in
Yeah.
Sardinia, Italy, right? They're not walking up
Yes.
and down those hills
Okay.
so we might not be able to get as many of those. And then they eat smaller portions of protein, which I think, a lot of people think they got to eat a 14-ounce steak or they got to eat a half a chicken. In
Okay.
reality, just a little bit less.
I
Get
see.
that portion size down, plan your meals. So that's the first step.
Okay. And you said portion size, you ended with that. And I want to go there for a second because obviously, as a nutritionist, obviously, as a clinical pharmacist, someone who is big on our health and what goes inside of our body. And I do know personally and professionally, you do advocate exercise. You said it just now, get moving. And I don't get moving. I know you are big about watch what goes inside of your mouth at the end of the day. And we've had fitness experts come on our program, and they have said you cannot outwork a bad diet. Period. Right? They're like, you can't run a marathon. You can't outwalk just a bad diet. And I want to talk about the component of the bad diet, right? Portion control. You mentioned that. How key is that? Because I think some people get confused about it because they're like, oh no, but I'm eating the fruits and the vegetables, the Mediterranean diet. I'm eating lean cuts of chicken or lean cuts of steak. And I notice for some people it's excessive amounts of it. And tell me this though, I mean, we can have a great food like the broccoli if it doesn't spoil, or grapes, or something like blackberries or blueberries, a little more low carb on the glycemic
Right.
index
Right.
scale. But should we
Yep.
still be watching the portions?
100%. I'm telling you right now, I didn't used to think you had to do that, but you really do have to watch your portion
Okay.
size. It's a must. I mean, people just flat out overeat. They
Okay.
eat they I have people that are overweight that say, "Oh yeah, I eat about 2,000 calories a day." And when we did our research on them, they were eating 4,000 calories a day.
It
And you
wasn't
got to
okay.
move quite a bit to burn that 4,000 calories off. I mean, and to your point about there, you can't work off a bad diet. I could not agree more. Just because when you're eating foods that are bad for you, it's triggering inflammation. It's leading to arteries being plaqued and blood sugar going up. You can't just say, "Oh, I'm running a marathon, so I can eat all the M&Ms I want." That just doesn't work. I mean, there's a responsibility,
Yeah. Yeah.
and if you're trying to exercise so that you can eat bad, you probably got a couple wires crossed because you're supposed to be doing things that get you to be healthier. And healthier is
Correct.
eating better
Together. Not.
while you exercise, not exercise in
Yeah.
order to eat
Yeah.
bad. And I've seen this over and over. I mean, I got 40 years
Correct.
in clinical practice. I work on athletes all over the world. And one of the biggest
Hmm.
things I see is poor diet leads to poor performance, no matter what.
That's it.
They always improve when they eat better. And the other thing that I think people forgot about is, the phone is a great way to save money.
How
I
so?
know I piqued your interest because you can download the app at the grocery store and you
That's
can look
true.
at the coupons and
That's
you
true.
can actually start to look at, well, hey, are there things that I could be buying this week that is going to save me money? I mean, look, I saved $200 per grocery run by planning my meals and looking for deals. Wow, wait, I didn't even realize I made that rhyme. Planning my meals and looking for deals. That's how we're going to get where we need to be, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's the truth. But I am sincere. I don't have an endless supply of money. I mean, if I can save 200 bucks every 2 weeks, shoot, that's
Yeah.
vacation money. That's
Absolutely.
my gas. That's my gas money,
Yeah.
right? That's
Absolutely.
that new. That's getting the
Yeah.
walls painted in my room that my wife once painted. It's having the money to
Yeah.
do things. And what we do with
Yeah.
food, look, I fight people on this all the time. People, oh, I don't have time to cook.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go fast food. Well, you know what? How long did it take you to go get that fast food? How much gas did you burn?
Okay.
And by the way, how
Okay.
much did it cost? Because eating fast food isn't exactly cheap anymore. It
No, it's not.
might be convenient,
Yeah.
but it's not cheap.
That's a good
I
point.
mean, I've seen those numbers. I've watched people, and I stay on top of it. You
Mhm.
spend 20 bucks on two people going through
Yeah.
fast food, 25 bucks
Absolutely.
easy. And and
Absolutely.
and then not factoring in the time it takes to get it. And you
Yeah.
can cook a great meal at home, especially if you use stuff like the frozen veggies. You
Yeah.
can cook a great meal at home.
That's
15
true.
minutes. 15 minutes.
Let's talk about the planning part of it because you did say, that makes a huge difference when you go to the grocery store, but especially in the middle of the week. Let's talk. I mean, right? It sounds like your son is an adult now out of the home, but there are millions of Americans who still have children in the home that may be 13 or 14. And I don't need to tell you that a typical 13 or 14-year-old in the US will eat you out of house and home. And for
I
those
know it.
for those that do have children, or minors or other family members such as cousins or in-laws or their own parents living in the home, you and I both know things can be going well, but comes Wednesday, everything's packed, the traffic is bad, you got to take somebody to soccer practice, things get backed up. How key is it from a human practical component to make sure we're planning early in the week, perhaps even on that Sunday, so we can have things in order later in the week?
Well, I think you hit the nail right on the head there. Here's the thing. If you want good health, you got a plan. You got to make a plan and you got to
Yeah.
take effort. I know people would spend more time researching their next refrigerator they're going to buy than they take the time to know their
Mhm.
health or the next car or their next house or
Yeah.
whatever it is. But but planning on food, you can food prep. You could make burrito rolls with have healthy ingredients
Yeah.
in them for your 13-year-old to take to school. And who doesn't what 13-year-old doesn't bake a burrito nowadays, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, it's a big deal. So
Correct.
there's ways that you do that. And I think that meal prep is a great way to meal plan. And
Yeah.
it's a way that you save money. And the other way is that it's like you said, people are in a rush now. And we got a lot of people with heart disease and diabetes, and people don't understand what those things mean. I mean, just taking something simple like aged garlic extract, right? You take Kyolic aged garlic extract. I had a reverend on a radio show that I did his
Yeah.
radio show, and this was a couple of days ago, and he said, I started taking that aged garlic 2 years ago when I talked to you. And I went, really? I said, that's awesome. He goes, I'm off all my blood pressure medication.
Wow.
How important is that? He feels better because blood pressure medications in some cases can create side effects. And I'm not against them. I know people need them. But if I can get you to take a nutrient and he's walking 6 miles a day,
Wow.
this
Yeah.
man was transformed, right? He's lost weight, his blood pressure's down, he's taken a dietary supplement. And when the budget's tight, something like Kyolic's got different formulas that attack
Yeah.
different needs. So if it's the immune system and bone health and heart health, they got one for that.
Yeah.
But I think it's important for people to recognize, look, nobody nobody is going to care about your health more than you do. and
That's
and I
right.
say some very cruel things
Right.
to people out of love. I call it ruthless compassion in my office, because
Yeah.
one of the things I say is, you know what, your labs look really pretty poor. You're diabetic. I mean, my father was diabetic. I love people. I mean, I got to tell you, my whole family is diabetic, and so I have a special place in my heart. But diabetes is devastating. You die early of heart disease. You get kidney disease. You got to go get dialysis. You lose limbs. You get blind.
Yeah.
And I tell people, I said, when if you pass away early, everybody at the office is going to miss you for about a week.
Wow.
And then somebody else
Yeah.
is going to sit in your chair. And once in a while,
Absolutely.
they'll talk about what a great person you were while they're at the water cooler, sitting at the lunch table or
Yeah.
something. But that's going to be about it.
Yeah.
Nobody is going to care about you more than you. So
Right.
let's
Right.
get going.
Right.
Get the frozen vegetables, start to
Yeah.
walk, plan your
Nice.
foods, right? I mean, I
Nice.
know that sounds mean, but I just, I really, it's just that whole thing of like, how long does it take you to drive to get the fast food? It takes you 20 minutes and $5 worth of gas.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
let's translate that, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, I know it's a tough one, but I think it's
Yeah.
important for people to
No.
understand.
I love it. Viewers, you're watching a national award winning podcast, Let's Talk America. I am Shana Thornton, one of your host and executive producer. We're on with the one and only James LaValle. He is an award winning author, best selling author. He's also a nutritionist and a clinical pharmacist, and he's a real person, right? He's offering real talk for real people. He's not an AI, artificial intelligence. He's really a
I'm
real
not.
person dealing, dealing with real components that we all do, admitting himself that diabetes runs in his family too. So he's not speaking pie in the sky. He's saying, well, let's take some actions and measures to make some real changes. I've got to ask you this before we get ready to get out of here, because I know you're super busy. But I want to talk about for the parents that are watching, or guardians, grandparents taking care of grandkids, moms and dads out there taking care of kids. You know, and I know one of the things, if you take away budget and money, time is the other component. You talked about fast food, cutting back, and planning. But how important is it when you talk about taking perhaps a 6 mile walk, like the Reverend that you spoke with earlier, before previously, or just in general, taking a lap around the neighborhood, around the apartment complex, the condo complex, wherever you are? How critical, though, is it to include the children? Because, so many moms will say, well, I can't go to the gym because I have my kids. Dads will say, well, I can't do that because I have my daughter. Talk to us about being practical, because you're a father. You know that, there are constraints and challenges, but how important is it for them to join us, or even talk about legacy? So many times people talk about leaving money for kids. How about leaving some legacy of health and what it takes to really thrive?
But man, you are on fire today. Let me tell you. Because that is exactly it. I mean, my son started coming in. I had a gym in my garage. I would bring him into my gym and he would watch me work out. And I would do little things with him when he was young. And you know what? My son is
Okay.
now 24 years old. He's getting his master's in human performance. Fitness and diet is a part of his existence. And it's
Mm-hmm.
because I wanted to leave the importance of that to him, because I know that's his best chance at living a long,
That's right.
fulfilled life.
That's
And
right.
so you teach your children, take
Yeah.
them on the walk with you. So what if you walk slower?
Yeah.
Who cares? At
That's
least you're walking,
right. That's right.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, build family. Remember I said about those blue zones?
Yeah.
Community, belonging. all good.
Correct.
We got a guy down in our street right now. He's 91 years old and he's got to walk with a wheeled walker, but we get his tail out of his house and we
Mhm.
walk with him. And you know what? He's like a part of the family on the
Yeah,
street, right? Because that's that sense of community that's going to really keep us healthy and feeling good. And I know we want to talk about that new big category of drugs, Ozempic.
we gotta. We have to talk about that before we leave. We talk about health and balance, and there's a new class of drugs. I'm not gonna pick on them by naming any specifics, but you know, and I know that so many individuals around the world have been placed on it, especially here in the states, if they're pre-diabetic or heading there. I've heard some providers say if mom or dad with that, and you can see the blood sugar or A1C creeping, they'll go there to help prevent it. It has taken off weight tremendously, right? I know girlfriends saying they lost 25, 30 pounds on it.
Oh,
Sounds like the magic pill. But I know a clinical pharmacist and a nutritionist is will often say what seems like gold and always pure gold. And I'm not making, by any means, I'm not knocking the class of medication. It's fairly new for most of us. But tell us if you have any concerns. Give us a balanced viewpoint right now as a pharmacist, the pluses, if there are minuses, and how helpful it's been to existing patients.
I think this class of drugs, the GLP-1 agonists, are fantastic. I've had people lose over 100 pounds in our clinics. But if all you do is use it and then you go to get off of it, many people start gaining their weight back. And it's because if they don't change their diet and lifestyle, it doesn't correct the metabolic problems that were behind it. You're relying on the drug to do that, and you're not doing your part. So you need, if you want to be successful using that class of drugs, it's change my diet, eat more responsibly, get exercise to maintain my lean mass, because you'll lose about 20 to 30% of your lean muscle mass when you use that category of drugs, just as if you were on a low calorie diet. And you don't want to lose your lean mass because muscle is the currency of aging. So if you exercise and you watch your diet and use that type of drug therapy, you can have great success. And then when you wean off of it, your lifestyle habits will carry you through keeping the weight off. But if all you
Nice.
do is take that
Nice.
drug, people will drop
It's not.
weight, but it will come right back on them if once they get off.
James,
I know.
it sounds like so many of the surgical procedures, right? When people have lost major weight, right? The gastric bypass. I don't need to tell you, you know this as a nutritionist. And then you see them a year and a half later, and you're like, what happened? And sometimes
Yeah,
they
I
seem to
bet
be
you.
bigger than before.
Well, I'll tell you that runs into that problem of you do a bypass, and what happens? They can't eat, so they start drinking
Oh my
because
God.
they haven't shut off that hedonic urge to eat. So now I can't eat. It's alcohol. It's I'm going to find a concentrated food like a sweet that I can eat that's not a lot of volume, but I get the head hit of, oh, that cookie feels good. Let me rub it
I
right here.
see.
I'm gonna
Hmm.
put that right on my forehead,
I
right?
see.
And that's the issue with all of these things is
I
it. There's no way getting around this. I wish there was. I
see.
wish I had a magic pill because I work hard at my age to maintain the muscle mass
Yeah.
I have and have the leanness that I've got. I have to work hard. I mean,
Yes.
50 minutes on the treadmill this morning, walking, not running, just walking, but 50
Okay.
minutes at the hotel
Okay.
and another 20 minutes working out with some weights to kind of get the muscles going. And, not everybody can spend that amount of time. I get
Yeah.
it, but you could take 15 minutes. You could
Yes.
start
To do
with
some. That's
10 or
right.
15 minutes. And you can't avoid the lifestyle change if you want sustained health, sustained longevity, and sustained weight loss. And you can do it on a budget, just like what
Yeah.
we talked about earlier. Use those
Yeah.
coupons, shop for deals, make sure that you're looking at things like frozen as a way to reduce your budget. All and think of core nutrients. I know I talked about that Kyola, but heart disease is still the number one killer. If there's one
Right.
nutrient people ought to be taking, is Kiowa Gage garlic extract,
I
and
see.
there's a whole family of those. But I mean, the data on that just continues to come out, reversing vulnerable plaque, right?
Okay.
Lowering blood pressure.
Yeah.
Those are big deals.
Okay. Yeah, huge deals. Before you go, I want to ask a question that can be clear to others listening because you are a medical expert. So you're, and I want to make sure I'm right. I want to put words in your mouth, but is it a fair statement to say when it comes to any suppressant, appetite suppressant of any class, is it fair to say it's not intended to be used long term, James?
Yeah, I mean, appetite suppressants have failed miserably over the last 60 years. I mean, eventually appetite suppressants succeed short term because it turns off your stress response, your compulsive and impulse to eat. How about managing your stress, learning to overcome that behavior? And so you can use it in the short term, but you still got to make it work in the long term. The difference on the GLP-1s is it's making your insulin work better. And 50% of our US population is either insulin
Mhm,
resistant or diabetic.
mhm.
And so those folks are gaining weight because their insulin receptors are off. So even though it does suppress appetite, it is kind of fixing a big problem, but it
Okay,
can't but it's still, if you don't incorporate lifestyle changes, you're not going to get where you need to be.
I see. And like you say, there's no easy way around it. Do what's best, right? I mean, for your heart health. Do what's best for the body because long term, it will certainly give you back the results you want, or at least it may not look like James LaValle, but it could certainly be better, right? I mean, which is fair to say. Everyone's not going to necessarily look like you or maybe be in the tip top shape, but I'm going to say this: any progress is good.
Yeah, I would say I agree. And I would
Yeah.
say that I have to be an example of what you can do in your 60s. When I get up on stage and I'm speaking at longevity summits and being asked to keynote, you got to give people an idea. And I happen to just love to try to do that, right? I want to be inspirational for folks. Just try to do the best you can so that you can feel the best you
That's
can.
it.
That's what counts.
Yeah. That's what it does. You heard it best from the one and only best-selling author, clinical pharmacist James LaValle. Be the best you can, feel the best you can, and we've got to make a conscious effort. James, always a pleasure and an honor to have you on Let's Talk America Radio. Can you tell our national and international viewers and listeners where they can go for additional information about everything you talked about and how to connect with you?
They can go to jimlavalle.com is the easiest way to get a hold of all that stuff. So LAVALLE, real easy.
Got it. What a pleasure to have you on. Thanks everyone for watching us. Stay tuned. Let's Talk America Radio offers the best conversations out there that's trending with the best experts like the one and only James LaValle. Stay tuned. More coming your way. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Thanks, James.
Thanks.